This is the Learnit Lounge, a podcast brought to you by Learnit. In each episode, I sit down with HR and L&D leaders to explore how learning programs have sparked real change, unlocked growth, built trust, and transformed the way that teams work. Hosted by me, Dr. Mickey Fitch-Collins, a facilitator and learning designer at Learnit, this podcast brings you the stories behind successful learning strategies, direct from the people driving them. Learnit is a live learning platform that's helped over 2 million professionals thrive inside some of the world's most respected companies. If you're looking for a partner to help you do the same, our contact info is in the show notes. Welcome to the Learnit Lounge, where learning leads to measurable impact. Overwhelm doesn't come from having too much to do. It comes from not knowing what matters most. On today's solo episode of the Learnit Lounge, we're going to be talking about how saying no professionally is key to you doing your best work. Now, I know all of you out there know this feeling, right? The blinking cursor, the wall of tasks, the pings on Slack and Teams, the red bubbles for the inbox, the 5,000 endless tabs open to 5,000 different projects. It's not that you don't know how to work hard. All of us work super hard. You absolutely do. It's that everything feels urgent and nothing feels clear. For learning and development pros, for HR pros especially, this can be super paralyzing because we're not just managing our own to-dos. We're fielding asks from stakeholders. We're responding to live feedback. We're building experiences. We're measuring outcomes. We're showing up in the best possible way. And the problem with that is that we're oftentimes balancing both how do we do reactive work and how do we do proactive strategic work. The myth is that better time management is going to help you solve your overwhelm. But the truth is that clarity of priority is what frees you. So here's some practical shifts to help you prioritize when everything feels like a flood. First of all, and I really want you to let this one set in, urgent does not mean important. We talk about the urgency versus importance matrix in our Own Your Time workshop all the time, using this to triage different tasks. The urgent and the important, this is the stuff we have to do right now. This is oftentimes the firefighting. Important but not urgent, schedule it. The absolute game changer is calendar blocking. Schedule it. Important but not urgent. This is the stuff we delegate. This is the stuff we hand off to somebody else. And most importantly, if it's neither one of those things, neither urgent nor important, this is the stuff that we need to eliminate or pause. And I want you to try a 5-minute start of day ritual. And here's what I want you to start with. What is the one thing that if you get it done today, would make everything else easier or some of your stresses unnecessary? What is something that's incredibly noisy and it's dressed up as urgency? So I encourage you to ask yourself those questions. Second, match your energy, not your ego. Some of the tasks that we do require incredibly deep focus. Some of them require us to be good communicators. Block your day to align the type of task with your actual energy curve, not your idealistic one. If you're a morning person, put that big, heavy lift stuff at the beginning of your day. If you know, like me, 3 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon, this is not my best thinking time. That is a good time for me to just get stuff done. Move those things to that time of the day. Match your tasks to your energy, not to your ego, not to what everybody else thinks you should be doing at what particular time. Another thing that you can do, and I love this concept, is micro-prioritization throughout the day, okay? Before you respond back to a team's message, ask yourself, is this going to advance a strategic priority or just relieve some pressure in the valve? Before you jump into your email every single time you get that notification, first and foremost, turn those notifications off. Turn them off on everything. Turn off the dots, the bings, the dings, all of that sort of stuff. You don't need to do that. Dip into your email, dip into your Teams every once in a while. Before you jump into that email, before you jump into your Teams messages, scan for the one message that deserves your depth, not just process for speed. Most of us go through and say, what can I attack quickly as possible? Boom, 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 boom. But what is the one thing that's actually going to move the needle forward in terms of strategy, and micro-prioritize that? Great piece of advice I got not too long ago. Create a will not do list. What are tasks or categories of things that you need to protect yourself from? Things like doing administrative task work during your high creativity times, responding to ad hoc requests without any sort of contextual information, recurring meetings that no longer serve any purpose. I can remember a season of my life where I measured success at the end of the day about how many check marks I had on my to-do list. But the problem was is that, like many of you, I still felt like, did I actually get anything meaningful done today? One particular Friday, this was before I put together my shutdown sequence that many of you have probably heard me talk about or seen me post on LinkedIn. One particular Friday, I looked back at my calendar from the week and I asked, what from any of this that's on my calendar actually moved our organization forward? Less than 20%, probably less than 15% of what was on my calendar was stuff that was on strategy, people, influence, or outcomes. The rest of the stuff were status meeting updates, documentation, reactive work, processing stuff, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. So I made a simple shift. I started color coding my calendar: blue for strategic stuff, red for reactive stuff, yellow for administrative stuff. That visual cue showed me where my week was going before it got started. It helped me create a buffer. And just as importantly, I started practicing this end of day debrief that later turned into my shutdown sequence, where I started asking myself questions. I actually had this on a piece of paper and I would write this down every single day. What was today's most valuable outcome? What distracted me the most today? And what am I going to protect tomorrow? My friends, this was not a productivity hack. This was a prioritization ritual that changed a lot for me. The thing is there is no 25th, 26th, or 27th hour of the day. There aren't extra days of the week, and nobody wants you doing work at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night. You don't need more hours. You need sharper focus. When task overwhelm shifts, it's time for you to pause and start clarifying your non-negotiables. It's time for you to start clarifying what you need to say no professionally to. It's time for you to start protecting space for deep work by defending your energy, not just your time. I want you to start viewing clarity as a leadership skill, not a luxury on the someday list. Because the most strategic and most impactful and most valuable people that I know, they're not the busiest people. They're the clearest people. If this solo episode hopefully helped you breathe a little bit easier or gave you a moment to pause, then I please ask you to go ahead and subscribe to the Learnit Lounge, connect with me on LinkedIn, and let me know what's your go-to move when overwhelm hits. And what's one thing that from today's episode you're going to try doing differently?